is a little bit crude, so the interface on this one, so this game was designed with mobile in mind for the original digital take, and the Steam port is very much just a direct PC port of the mobile interface. And so it's a little rough around the edges. I'm sure it'll improve as the application matures a little bit. But the actual gameplay in the card game is very good. So they released a paper component last summer at Gen Con. And then the mobile version released, I believe, just before the end of the year. And this has kind of been my go-to, like, tablet card game thing. So, like, when I'm walking on the treadmill at the gym, I usually play a game or two. I'll try and break down some of the things that go on in the game as we play it. One of the things that I like about this game is that the resource system is very unique. So, unlike other card games where a lot of card games you draw a card every turn, right? So in the Warhammer card game, drawing a card is one of the resources that you have to use. So basically, every turn, each player can take 2 actions, and those actions are playing a card from your hand, activating an ability of something that you have on the board if you have something that has an ability to activate, or you end your turn by drawing a card for each action that you have unspent. So things that discard cards from your opponent's hand, for instance, are a lot more valuable in this game because taking a card away from them is like taking an action away from them. And cards that draw cards are extra good because they're like getting extra actions in a turn. I also really like that drawing is at the end of a turn, because the fact that you draw at the end of your turn means that you can think about what you want to do on your next turn while your opponent's turn is going on. So, this game is played across 4 lanes. Each of these things are referred to. And the game tends to have a good bit of depth right from the start because there's a lot of positioning type things. So if you're familiar with some of the decks that other people play, you can kind of tell that where you want your champions to go, for instance. So each deck has four champions in it that you use. Yes, your mobile and your Steam account link. So I have the same cards on the desktop version that I have on the mobile. Oh, also, so I mentioned this game as a paper card game. If you're someone who's into physical TCGs, the paper cards each have a unique code on them. So you scan the cards you have in paper into digital. So the deck that you have in paper, you get the exact same cards on the digital app. You scan them in using your webcam or your cell phone camera. Which was sweet, because I bought some cards at Gen Con, and then I was able to have them on digital as well. I actually haven't played a ton of paper, but I have played a good bit of digital. So the positioning on the champions, the first player puts 1 thing down, then the second player puts 2 down, then the first player puts 2 down, then 2, then 1. It goes back and forth like this. There's a lot on the interface to start. If you're on a PC, there's a quick rules document here, but I'm going to kind of explain what we're doing as we go. So each of your champions have either... Is a sponsored play? Just curious. No, they're not paying me. If as a heads up, if a creator is being paid to play something, they're legally required to disclose that in basically every major country around the world. So you draw 5 cards. So whoever goes first starts with 4 cards in their hand. Whoever goes second gets 5. And then my opponent played 1 card here, and then they drew 1 card for their turn. So again, you get to do 2 things every single turn, basically. So for one of my actions, I'm going to play a spell. And this spell, if we look at it here, it has three corners on it that each have a 1 on it. And it says, on each of these corners, you draw 1, and that turn symbol means you do whatever the number is in the corner. So basically, for when I play it, I draw 1 card, and then the next 2 turns, I draw a card. And then I don't have anything else I want to play out here. So I'm going to draw a card here. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no overlay on this one. So you'll notice when my opponent's turn started, their card turned to the 1 corner. At the start of each turn, all of the cards that you currently have in play turn, and they do their effect that's listed in the corner. So my opponent played a unit here that dealt the damage to me, and then they played this Triumphant Smash card that lets them remove one of my cards from play. Yeah, they're very, very, very similar to how sagas play out with the enchantment design space in Magic. So you'll notice when I drag the blue spell out here, I can only put it on either of these 2 guys in the middle here, because blue are spell cards, and each of your champions has either a caster or warrior association with them, or sometimes they're both, like this guy. The flame belching firebelly is both. So that determines what kind of cards they can play out. The champions, each of them, when we look at them, so in addition to playing 2 cards per turn, one of the things you're kind of looking to do to gain advantage in this game is you'll notice there's 4 symbols on each of these champions, and as I play cards matching the symbols, the champions kind of click through what they have going on. So these are referred to as the champion's quests. So for instance here, when I play this ability card on this spot here, you'll notice its first quest will tick over. So when I play the ability here, this clicks to the next one. So do mono-type champions have better abilities to compensate? That's one of the ways that they balance them, yeah. And then this card is basically a tutor effect. It grabs one of these Grot units out of my deck. And then you can see here, when I play the Grot unit here, that's what this symbol means, is play a beast unit, and this is a beast Grot, so it triggers that too. So when you work through all of the quests on a specific champion, you flip up this card underneath it that's called a blessing, and the blessing gives you some kind of really powerful effect that's more powerful than cards that you can put in your actual deck. During the deck building portion of the game, you know which blessings are going in your deck, but you don't know which 4 positions they end up in under your champions. So I know, like, which 4 blessings I have total here, but I don't know which ones are under which champion. So that's one of the places where the game introduces variance into it, in that I don't know which ones I'm flipping up. But as I slowly flip more and more blessings, I can kind of narrow down, okay, this one's more likely to be this other one that I haven't flipped yet. Yes, it's similar to prize cards in Pokemon, only they're specific to under each champion. That's a good comparison. This is the Warhammer TCG game called Age of Sigmar Champions. So you'll notice here, when my opponent played this card out, this card became, it got some Z's over it, it went dormant. So the way the interaction in this game works is, a lot of the interaction that occurs is positional. So this card says, highlighted units are dormant. So it has a red square there, and that means the unit directly across from this is dormant. So this guy won't turn or do anything as long as this guy is sitting here. So I don't really want that to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Deadly Chop on this lane here. You can see it lights up what lane I put it on. So Deadly Chop will remove the red square, the unit across from where I do this. So it removes their unit and then it deals damage to them. If you overdraw, you do not lose. So when your deck is empty, the game says, did you take a game action this turn? If yes, you keep playing. If no, you have to discard a card and play, or you lose. So this deck that I'm playing might actually not be the best deck to show to start, but it's the one I've been enjoying because it draws a lot of cards and cycles through things. Play a spell on this guy. So one of the kind of, so like most deck building games, there's a lot of synergies in the decks when you're doing deck building and playing. So the Belching Firebelly here, he has an activated ability on him where I can use one of my 2 actions for the turn to deal 5 damage. So my opponent just completed their quest card there. And their quest card flipped up and dealt 4 damage to me. Some of the quests just deal damage and then go away. Some of the quests sit and play and have a lasting effect over a couple of turns, etc. So there's my fire ability. So he discards 2 cards from my hand to deal 5 damage. Watching Storm as a new Magic player intrigued me in older formats, so just go ahead and storm off. So, one of the things, you'll notice there's 3 skulls in the center. This represents how many actions I can take in a turn. This card here specifically gives you additional actions on the turns where its corners are on 1. So this is on a 1 right now, so it gives me an extra action. So your base number of actions you get is only 2 per turn, but other cards can modify and give you additional ones. Has a place in the board of Reanimator. What Reanimator deck? So I think I'm actually going to go ahead and activate the Fire Belly. Nah, I'm going to draw 2 cards. So you'll notice there's the goal of this game, similar to Magic, is to reduce your opponent's health total to 0. And you'll notice I have 12 right now, and my opponent is currently at 20. One of the things that's feels natural coming from Magic, but is even more present in this game, is that the number of cards you have in your hand is a bigger indicator of how far ahead or behind a player is in a given game. And one of the reasons why that is because it takes you a game action in order to draw a card. So even though my health total is really far behind here, if my opponent doesn't kill me this turn, I'm actually in an okay spot because they only have 1 card left in their hand, which means they're going to have to take a lot of turns to draw cards back up while I already have a lot to do with my hand as is. So this is another piece of positional interaction that my opponent played here. So this card specifically says the highlighted champion cannot play spells or abilities. So this card can't play anything right now. I'm at 2, which means this is going to turn and kill me next turn if I don't gain life. So I'm going to play my Wog Infusion, which deals damage to my opponent and lets me gain 3. And now my opponent is at 13. And next turn, I'm going to be able to play an ability and heal on this guy with this Feed the Maw and this Wog Infusion. So that'll complete his quest and flip up one of my Blessing cards, which should be good. I think I'm going to go ahead and just draw 2 here. I'm also getting pretty close to completing this quest over here. So you can't put a second card out on a lane that already controls a card. So my opponent just said well played. So maybe they think I'm dead. So I'm going to go ahead and play this card here, which deals some damage to them. And then this card gives me an extra action when it comes into play, so I might just put that there because it's a free roll. And then one of my blessings actually heals me for 4, so hopefully we flip up that blessing here. So I have a 1 in 4 chance to heal for 4 here, and 1 heals for 2, so I have a 50% chance to heal here. So this blessing deals 2 damage the turn it flips up, and then it kind of ticks through and does 3 and 3 more. So we'll see if my opponent can deal 6 to me with their 2 cards they have in hand. How did Amulet Titan go this morning? It was kind of middling, honestly. Was not fantastic. We are playing Destruction, Bob. Because if they can't kill me this turn, on my next turn, this turns and does 3 damage. And then my Belching Fire Belly can activate to 5 them. Beast Riders are just general destruction. So the focus of this deck is playing beast units. So I'm going to play my ability and flip. I think one of my quests right now is playing abilities, so I'm going to play my extra ability, and then this flips up and deals damage to them. I have no idea what's happening there, and I played it already. Yeah, so this game is obviously using the Age of the Warhammer IP, but it's made by a company called PlayFusion. One of the things that's kind of neat that encourages you to get physical cards to scan in digitally is that you'll notice it said a bunch of my cards leveled up. Leveling up your cards doesn't actually make them better or more powerful, but it gives you free in-game currency, and your cards only level up if they're physical cards that you've scanned in. So you can just buy digital... So you can buy digital packs, just like Arena or Hearthstone or anything like that, but you can also buy physical cards and scan them into the game, and then those cards level up as you play, which gives you extra in-game currency. Is there an analogy to instance in this that lets you respond to your opponent's actions? So this game doesn't have a priority system like Magic does. So there's not a stack or instance. A lot of the interactions as you play are positional based. They'll say things like, this unit can't play these things, or you're locked out of playing this piece, etc. So their seasons are month to month, just like Arenas are. So their season just started. This is actually my last placement match into the season. They have everyone do 5 placement matches every season. And then based off of those, plus your previous season's record, it assigns you a place. So this is where knowing their champions and positional things come up, because I really like that this game has a lot of depth just even from the right when you start. This card specifically gets a bonus when it removes opposing units. So I'm going to put my spellcaster over here because the Snazgar Stink Mullet, he doesn't deploy units. So I want to put my guy that doesn't deploy units across from their guy that gets a benefit from removing units. And then my last guy has to go here, obviously. My Warhammer decks. This is the one I'm playing right now. I've been playing this, and I have a death deck, but I don't think that one's quite as good. That I've played a little bit of also. So I get to go first here, and I'm going to go ahead and start by playing out the Grot Ambush, which triggers... Grot Ambush is really good because it triggers the ability on this unit, and then on this champion, and then it also goes and gets a unit out of my deck, which triggers the second corner as well. So Grot Ambush is one of the best cards to have in our opening hand because it gets a jump start on these quests, basically. It completes the first one and the second one for me. And then this card gives me an extra action in the turn, so basically doing that was free. So I still have 2 actions left, which means I don't really have anything else I want to do with these cards in my hand, so I'm just going to draw 2 to pass the turn. One of the things you'll also notice here is that my opponent and I started with different health totals. Someone asked how they balanced the champions earlier, because different champions, some are warriors and heroes, some are just heroes, some are just warriors. One of the ways they balance the champions is with the starting health total. So if I click on this card, for instance, you'll notice there's a red circle and a blue circle. The red and green circle are how they balance the champions. The red circle is your starting health total adjustment, and the green circle is how many points it costs. So your starting health is 30, and then I have 3 champions with -3, so my deck starts at 27. And then, what's the word that I'm searching for? The point total, the 2, so like this card's worth 2 points, this card's worth 6 points, this card's worth 10 points. The total points across all your champions have to total less than 20. What's going on, Big Mama? So now I have to decide what I want to do here. So this guy is the same as this one. You can have up to 2 of the same champion, so it's going to get a benefit if I put units across from it. So this card, Tactical Formation, lets me reposition my champions. And notably, it draws a card, so it's kind of free in a way. So I'm going to tactical formation this guy from this position down over to this position here. So I'm going to go ahead and swap them. And then I'm going to go ahead and play the Grot Ambush over here. And you'll notice this doesn't complete the quest because I'm on a beast quest, not an ability quest. But it gets a Grot out of my deck here, which is a beast, which then completes the second one. And then this guy, again, gives me an extra action when he's on a 1 corner. So I still get to do a 3rd thing in a turn. So I'm going to go ahead and put my Flesh to Stone over here. Which, this card, I'm playing it mostly because it draws me cards. But my opponent is also playing a Pouncing Wolf Rider, which gives them extra actions. And this Flesh to Stone says your opponents can't gain additional actions. So this shuts down part of their Grot Riders. Which, again, that interaction is kind of denial or prison-style interaction as opposed to direct 1-for-1 action. And, in fact, my opponent spent one of their removal spells on this because they want to get their extra action next turn, which is sweet for us. So, all of my units rotate. When there's an X on the corner, that means the unit doesn't do anything, so this does nothing this turn. However, this one's on a 1, which means I get an additional action this turn. I'm going to go ahead and play out the Maw. So this card only rotates, so you'll notice the corners on this card. Yeah, and the Flesh to Stone got value because it drew a card. You notice the corners on this card are not circles, so that means it has a special condition that rotates it. Normally you have to wait for things to be removed. But Stink Mullet has a once per game action, which lets him automatically push his spell through to the last corner. So with 2 actions, I just deal a burst of 9 damage here, which is sweet. And then this guy can go ahead and play this Wog Infusion here, which triggers the ability corner and deals 2 to them and heals me for 3. And then next turn, I have another Wog Infusion, which triggers the healing corner. So a card like this is super flexible because it triggers ability quests, it triggers health gain quests, and it triggers deal damage quests. It's one of the kind of deck building puzzles while you're trying to build optimal or interesting decks in this game is trying to figure out, okay, what combination of cards do I need to hit my quests consistently? So this card rotated off its last corner, so it goes away. I'm going to go ahead and play another Wog Infusion here, which deals 2 to them, heals me, and then notably completes the health gain quest, so this flips up. You pick the quest, so you pick your champions and you pick your quests, but the thing you don't get to know is you don't get to know where your quests end up at. So that quest that flipped up there drew me 2 cards, and one of them was awesome. It was a tactical formation. So I get to go ahead and put this beast unit here, which triggers this next quest, and now I'm going to complete yet another quest. I'm going to go ahead and put this here, which is the ability, which triggers his blessing card, which flips up, and this deals 9 damage over the course of a couple of turns here. And you can see my opponent's already down to 5, so that's a lot of damage. So I swapped the position when I played this. I don't want to swap this unit to this corner here. And the reason for that is this guy completes his quest when he removes units. So I don't want to put a unit right in front of him and play into this ability on him. Because my opponent's actually dead on board now because I can just activate my Belching Fire Belly here to deal the last 5 points of damage. I feel like Jeff is playing a pile of Mythics versus someone playing Pauper. Listen, This game's really small, so I'm not sure that there's a lot of people that have been innovating on deck lists, but I think I've only lost like one game with this deck. It's felt really busted. Where is the rarity on these cards? In the bottom here. So you see this little bronze ticker. This is a common. Stink Bullet's a rare. The gold is a rare. I think this is an uncommon. This is an uncommon. Silver is uncommon. So booster packs only have commons, uncommons, and rare cards for rarities. There is a fourth rarity of cards that only come out of box sets. So like the starter decks that you buy each have a card that's unique to those starter decks that are considered a fourth rarity, but you don't like open that fourth rarity in a booster pack like a mythic rare. So I'm gonna go ahead and activate this guy and kill them. Take my cards. Get him. And like I said, I've been playing this game off and on since it released on mobile on my tablet last fall. And my wife and I go to Gen Con every year, which is actually where I played their paper game last year, and they announced that they're having a $20,000 cash tournament at Gen Con this summer, so I'm planning to play in that. So I'm planning to find a deck that I like that feels good and take it to that tournament. The crafting in this game is identical to a Hearthstone style. You can see this middle currency up here. These are souls that I can spend to craft cards. But in addition to the crafting system, if you buy paper cards for this game, any paper card that you buy, you get the same card in digital because they have a unique signature that you scan into the client. So you can kind of pick and choose. If you want to buy singles, you can buy paper singles and scan them into digital, or you can just use the crafting system like in Hearthstone. So why wouldn't you always buy physical? Well, like other TCGs, there's a secondary market, right? And like, you also get currency just from playing. And actually, if you scan physical cards in, you get extra rewards in game. So I often have a lot of extra digital cards, even though I have a bunch of physical stuff, just because you get the in-game currency. What happens if you bought a single someone scans? Well, you can scan it and see if someone has the card locked or not. And if someone's selling a card, they can unclaim it. So like if I've already claimed a card and I want to trade or sell it to someone, I can scan it into my app and say unclaim this. Can I make a Bright Wizard deck? I don't know what a Bright Wizard is. There are some decks that are all wizards that I've seen people playing, but I don't know if they're very good or not. This opponent's playing a death deck. So, I have spells in my deck that remove a unit after they turn a corner. So I like to make sure both my spellcasters end up across from heroes that are deploying units. So for people that aren't familiar with the Warhammer Vorthos, there's 4 factions, which are how the cards are kind of separated out. So there's Death, Order, Destruction, and Chaos. And then your deck can only contain cards, heroes, and blessings from your faction or the neutral faction. So they're similar to like the classes in Hearthstone, basically. Alright, so I like to start with Flesh to Stone because it draws me an extra card. One of the reasons why this deck has felt so powerful to me is because it has so many cards that draw extra cards, and it gets to do the same thing in most of the games. So it almost always gets to execute its core game plan. And this card here, there's no strategic reason for repositioning these things. Is there? No, not really. I just want to complete the ability quest here. So I'm just playing that to draw a card and complete my quest. Dude, like to compare what cards are in the game for like Vorthos standpoint. You can look at their website here. They have a card database on there. So corner 1, they look at the top 4 cards of their deck. They can rearrange them or shuffle. And then corner 3, they draw 3 cards. So again, drawing cards is incredibly valuable in this game because you don't draw a card every turn. So drawing a card is basically like taking an action. So if I remove this card, it's not dissimilar from getting a 3-for-1 because eventually this card's going to draw them 3 cards. So it's valuable to spend a piece of removal here to stop them from drawing 3 cards eventually. Also, because you only get 2-ish actions unless you have things that let you take extra actions each turn, every time you take a game action that also completes a quest, it's kind of like taking an action and a half. So the way you kind of get ahead as you play is you want to be kind of completing quests with almost everything that you do. So their unit here, on each of its corners with a number, it deals damage and gains health. So this is something worth noting. I have those Grot units that give me extra actions. This says I don't get to take extra actions in a turn, which is a big deal. The Old Regime, thank you for the Prime support. Hope you're having a fantastic Thursday wherever you're at. Which makes this card significantly worse. So I think I actually want to burn. So this is going to draw them cards over the next 2 turns. So playing this, burning your removal early feels a little bit bad a lot of the time, but this is going to deny me a lot and draw them 2 cards. Yeah, definitely Old Regime. So now I can play this out, and because their Flesh to Stone is gone, I get to draw cards. I get to take extra actions. I don't really have anything else I want to do here. This lets me reposition their units, which is kind of appealing. So one of the reasons why repositioning units is good is because this guy, for instance, is going to trigger the healing and damage here. But the flip side is I also might want to save this until I can complete a quest. I think I'm just going to set them back on their quest. So if I do this, I get to go ahead and take this guy, and I can move him to, say, this guy here. And not only does this mess up my opponent's ability to complete these quests here, but now this is my opponent's only spellcaster on their team. So by putting a unit in front of him, I lock my opponent out of the ability to play more spells until this guy is done. Is Electro Living End better than the Cascade version, or are they pretty much just the same, different playstyles? I don't know. The Electro Living End has less of a pedigree, so I'd be very hesitant to say, like, it's just better or just worse, so much as it's just untested. The amount of games I would have to play to, like, realistically know if it's better or not is pretty high. So this card eventually draws my opponent 2 cards. When it gets to its last corner, it gains them a health, draws them cards. So I'm going to put this spell across from it, which eventually removes their thing next turn before it draws. I don't think I have anything else to do this turn, though, so I'm just going to draw 1. Hey, Pinky, thank you for the 15 months. I really appreciate that. Welcome back. Thanks for keeping me employed here. Well, I appreciate it, Old Regime. And remember, if you want to pick my brain about Magic stuff when I'm offline too, be sure to hop on into the subs Discord. One of the things that took me a while... One of the things that took me a while to get used to in this game was figuring out exactly how far ahead or behind I was in any given game, because the health totals in this game, so, hey, Image, thank you for the Twitch Prime support, welcome, thanks for shipping your Bezo bucks this way. In Magic, we often talk about your health total as a resource, and in this game, while your health total isn't really a resource. It's really more of a direct measure of how far ahead or behind you are, because you can only take 2 actions per turn. The death faction does have a number of elements that let it draw, yeah. I would say that is an accurate representation of things that it does. Each of the different factions have things that they're a little bit better and worse at, and obviously there's some overlap between them too. So like the destruction deck that I'm playing, the thing that they're best at is kind of taking extra action. So they have a couple other cards like these Pouncing Wolf Riders that give you extra actions in a turn. So you can kind of do more things at once. Yeah, if you, I can't believe I didn't mention that. So, if you just download it on Steam or mobile, on Android or iOS, it's free to play on all those platforms. So this card's super powerful. So they flip, a lot of the blessings are very good. This does 4 damage to me, and I have to discard 2 cards from my hand. Shuffle them back into my deck. I think I'm gonna get rid of these Gazamorks. Yeah. And again, there's a lot of metrics, like when I talked about figuring out how far ahead or behind you are in a given game. Like, at the moment, my opponent has a lot more health than me, and we have similar number of cards, but if you look at how close all my things are to how close my champions are to completing their quests, being able to complete my blessings quickly does put me a little bit ahead because the blessings are so powerful. One of the other things that's a rule that I didn't mention, but it's very simple to remember, you can't play 2 copies of the same card in the same turn. So you'll notice this Feed the Maw is no longer lit up because I already played a copy of that. Yeah, the fact that this is on mobile is one of the big reasons I kept playing it, because I wanted something to play on my tablet. You can mill people out in this game, so you don't strictly lose the game when you go to draw but can't. So the way it works is, if you go to draw a card but can't, the game asks the question basically, did you play a card this turn? So if you couldn't draw, if you played a card, you're okay. If you couldn't draw and played a card and didn't play a card, you have to sacrifice something you control, and then if you can't do that, you lose. Yes, yeah, this is the game where when you have a card and paper, you get it into digital. So, and again, this is where kind of knowing the details of, or watching what your opponent's cards are doing can matter. My opponent played out this Flesh to Stone here, but notably, this hero here is on an ability corner, and all of the removal spells in this game are abilities across all the factions. So I get to go ahead and remove this Flesh to Stone, which is a card I want to remove anyways, and I also get to trigger the last ability here, which flips up this quest, which deals 2 damage, gains me 2 life, and draws me 2 cards. Has my opponent played any removal yet? They've not. So this corner here on my opponent's thing says play removal to trigger it. So whatever unit I put here, my opponent only has 19 cards in their deck, and most decks play 3 pieces of removal. So statistically speaking, my opponent has a piece of removal in their hand. So I'm going to play out this unit here. That's one that I care about less than my giant spider, because this deals damage right away, and if my opponent removes this next turn to complete their quest, I care less about it. It's kind of a 4-for-1, so all of the blessing cards that flip up are incredibly powerful, because you have to jump through hoops to get to them, basically. That's true, dude. Like, they don't have any other lanes to play spells on. So these two turn. So this blessing here isn't a one-shot. A lot of the blessings are one-shots. So this eventually does 9 damage, but it does it over the course of 3 turns. So you'll notice this guy is on an ability corner, but you'll note that I can't play this ability here because this is a blue ability, which means only a wizard can play it. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and draw 3 here because I want to find an ability that a warrior can play. Which I did. I found Beat Back, which has a red border, which means a warrior can play it. And now they played a unit here. So they flipped up a passive one. So this is a Cloak of Mist and Shadow. Increase damage from this champion's ability by 2. And this gives them the ability to swap positions with their different champions. Interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and play Beat Back here, which lets me reposition one of their units. And it flips up my quest, and this blessing gains me 4 health and draws me 2 cards. So basically all of the blessings are way more powerful than the cards you could play because you have to work for them. No, once your blessing does its thing, it's gone. And I'm going to move this to here, which again, this is their only thing that can play spells. So now they're locked out of playing spells. I'm going to go ahead and activate the Belching Firebelly's ability here, which lets me discard 2 cards to deal 5 to my opponent. And this is the big synergy my deck has, why I'm playing the Belching Firebelly. This Feed the Maw card says when you discard it, it deals 2 damage to the opponent. So when I discard 2 Feed the Maws to the Firebelly, he hits them for a 9-ball. Sully Gnome, Big Mama. So that's a big chunk. Like, dealing 9 with 1 action is huge. And then I'm going to go ahead and play this Dorko out here, which deals 3. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons. So, like, if you look at my deck here, my deck only has 5 cards left in it. And my opponent's deck has 19 cards. So one of the things that this deck does really well is dealing large amounts of damage every single turn. Oh, I forgot about their champion abilities. That's kind of a big mistake. Oh, Belching Firebelly kills them. So these things heal them. I was like, oh, I can't finish them off, but Firebelly finishes them off. And I'm going to play an ability here because I have a quest that wants me to gain life, so I'm going to complete my quest while we play. It's not BM, I'm just completing my quest. So, normally, Firebelly is a pretty big disadvantage trading 2 resources to deal 5 damage, but because my deck has cards that synergize with it, it's less of a disadvantage. And if you're looking at this game and you think it seems kind of interesting, but it's hard to follow because you haven't played it yourself, there is a short 2-page rule book that's the quick rules. I also made a short intro video. It's like 5 to 10 minutes, I think, that explains the rules. And you can also download this and play it for free yourself, too. It's free to play, like most digital card games. Yeah, one of the things I really like about this game is the gameplay is just very unique. So, like, even Hearthstone and Hearthstone, Eternal, Hex, like, all these other card games, they're very Magic adjacent in the gameplay. Like, there's a mana system, and the way combat works even has a lot of similarities, but this game just uses a game design space that's very different from all of that. So, like, I like playing lots of games, but, you know, I stream Magic 40 hours a week, sometimes more. So this is, like, I want to, like, unwind with something else that's, like, not directly work related to me, or, like, I need a break from Magic, and, like, this is still a game, but it's very different in terms of how it plays. What's going on, Wicked Zen? Listen, there's 2 types of people, dude. Like, people who know they're mono red players and people who haven't been told yet. So, this is, again, one of the strategy things from the initial positioning. My opponent is also playing a destruction deck. And some of the other common destruction decks in this game play a card that does extra damage if it's across from a wizard. So I want to play my wizards out aggressively across from their champions that don't explicitly care about wizards, because I don't want to end up across from their guy that cares about wizards. So, one of the things that I didn't explain that's just been happening that might be confusing if you're trying to pick up the rules from just watching is this champion has the special rules text that says, when this deploys specifically a beast unit, which all my units are beast units, it rotates that beast one step forward immediately. So, the cards rotate at the start of every turn, but if you were to put this guy on a normal champion, it wouldn't do anything the turn you play it. So Pouncing Wolf Rider is explicitly super synergistic with Savage Boar Boss because it gives you a damage and an action right away. You don't have to wait for it. Yes, Wizard and Warrior are the only types of champions, and some are both, like the Belching Firebelly. So this is one like we played against earlier where he is explicitly good against units. So I'm going to go ahead and use my tactical formation to move my card that's going to be playing units away from this lane because I don't want to put units in front of the guy that wants units in front of him. That also completes the ability quest here. So again, you want to try and make every card you play complete quests most of the time because your quest cards are incredibly powerful. So I'm going to play this guy out here, and again, instead of starting on his first corner, the X, he goes right to his 1 on the Savage Boar Boss because the Boar Boss kicks beast units along like that. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and play the Gaze of Mork out here because it completes the spell quest. And this unit is going to deal 1 and then 3, but the Gaze of Mork removes their unit. So this will only deal 2 instead of the full 5. Does completing all quests do anything other than powerful effects? It does not, Ermigerd. That's a good question, though. But no, you don't get any special kind of bonus for completing all 4. Breakski, thanks for the Twitch Prime sub. I appreciate the 2 months. Welcome, welcome. And they had a removal spell for my thing, which is unfortunate. Yeah, this is they released on Steam, Zentoth. Are there any catch-up mechanics besides from Blessings? No, there aren't any, like, sweeper effects in the game. Which is an interesting point. The games do tend to snowball sometimes. Although I'm not really sure. Like I said, it's tough for me to measure how close I am to winning a lot of games because the measurements of how you know when you're ahead are very different from Magic. Sasamato, thank you for the 20-month resub. I appreciate that. Welcome back. Some quests completely win the game. No, there aren't any deal 30s, but there are some that, like, deal large chunks of damage after you complete certain things. Pink Warlord, thank you for the brand new tier 1 sub. Hope you're having a fantastic Thursday afternoon. Welcome. Arrowhead, thanks for the quarter of a year. Can we get your deck list somewhere? Yeah. Yeah, if you want to look at what the cards in my deck do. Actually, that's something that I really like in this game is, in the digital app, you can, what's the word that I'm searching for? In the digital app, you can automatically export your deck list to their website for easy sharing like that. John Slayer, thank you for the 5 months. I appreciate that. Welcome back. My opponent is, so we're finally getting thrashed. Our deck might not be unbeatable. So my opponent's completed 2 of their quests. This thing has a special mechanic called stacking. So you'll see there's a 1 here. They actually played this out on top of their other unit. So this thing's gonna get set up to deal 6 to me eventually here. Alright, so what am I doing here? This card specifically says it deals extra damage if it's not across from a unit. So what I want to do here is, I'm going to go ahead and play this here, which completes the Beats quest and deals 3 damage. And that's one of my 3 actions, because this guy gives me an extra action. I'm going to go ahead and use my tactical formation to slide this guy. We're going to slide to the left. and get in front of this guy, because if I'm in front of this guy, I take less damage from him. And then my blessing flipped up there to draw me extra cards, which is sweet. And then this guy notably is on an ability corner, and I really don't want to take 6 from this Dorko, so I'm going to go ahead and deadly chop this dork. Which, again, it's a good action because it gets me ahead. It impacts my opponent's board and it completes my quest. Unfortunately, this one does not have a mouse over interface. It's a smaller game company. So this is, we talked about quests earlier dealing copious amounts of damage. This is one that hits for a lot. So this blessing eventually deals 12, but it doesn't deal 12 until my opponent loses some orc units out of play. So I think we're about to get bodied here. One of the other couple decks that we played against, my opponents didn't really have fast starts, which gave me time to, like, get set up and, like, draw a bunch of cards out of my deck. And this opponent's run us down very quickly. I'm going to start with this. I think I want to put a guy in front of here, because this guy deals 2 less damage if there's something in front of him. And this gives me an extra action, so I get to do one more thing. And then this card makes me discard a card when I play it, but it hits for a chunk of 6. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down over here, and I'll discard one of my Feed the Maws, which deal 2 damage when I discard it. So that's going to hit my opponent to 21. So this is dealing 6 to put them to 15. If your mage was a heal ability, could you... So, one of the things that's a rules mechanic of this game is if... What's the word that I'm searching for? If a single card would complete multiple quests in the same turn, it does not. So, like, this ability doesn't complete both of these quests for me, no. We're gonna be really close, but I think we're dead. I think we're exactly dead, actually. So this heals me for 3, but they have 2 orc units here, which when these both rotate out, this is gonna 12 me next turn. So I can deal 2 with this, and I can activate this guy to deal 7. So I can deal 9 this turn and drop them to 6, but then they're gonna hit me for 12 next turn with their blessing. I guess I'll play my abilities to get my quest completed, but I end up playing Warhammer. I picked this game up at Gen Con last summer, and then I've been playing it on and off on their mobile client, and they released on Steam recently. And they are having a 20K tournament at Gen Con this summer as a paper tournament. So I decided I want to play a little bit off and on a little bit more to find a deck that I like to play in that tournament. Oh, today specifically, it was like 2:30 and I was done and didn't feel like starting another Magic deck. So I was like, I'm going to play for a little bit. That's a close game. It's a close game. And again, one of the things for measuring how close you are in games is the health total. Yes, I will be at Gen Con. Christy and I go to Gen Con basically every summer for the last few summers. Three or 4 years. Alright, yeah, let's play at least one more. If I play one more, I'll complete both of these quests, which is nice. Unaligned cards and units. Have a good night, Dude Light. If you just dropped in, we've been playing this for, I don't know, a little over an hour. I'm going to play one more before I go do my wrap-up, finish my actual work for the day related to my Magic stream. And if you wanted to catch all of this, hear my breakdowns from the start, it'll be up on my YouTube channel later. This is on Steam, yep. Yeah, this is Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions. You can find it on Steam, iOS, and Android. I mostly play on mobile. How do you feel the learning curve is versus Magic? The curve's actually easier than Magic. There's definitely a little bit less going on than what Magic has. Once you understand what all the symbols mean, which this quick start guide, which is 2 pages, has all the symbols on it, the game flows a lot quicker for you. No, definitely, yeah. If you see me at any tournaments or events, feel free to come up and say hello. I often have a Sharpie if you want me to damage Magic cards. Sign them. So, always love to meet people. I don't get out to paper events as often anymore, but I love to meet people when I do. Insert Chipotle skit. They didn't send me dollars last time, but I streamed a little bit of this last fall at the old house, and like moving and everything got caught up, and they sent me a booster box, which was sweet. I like free cards. So their 3rd set is releasing here Monday on their digital app. So the first 3 sets will be the sets that are legal for Gen Con. So I might do a stream of this like for a couple hours once a week or so, just like trying to find a deck that I want to play for Gen Con. Are you going to keep the pink hair so it'll be easier to pick out at the crowd? The beard will probably be gone by Gen Con, because I don't want to keep the beard long over the summer while it's hot out. Yeah, I agree. If you're looking for something that's just like genuinely different from Magic, and the games are like relatively quick. Yeah, Gen Con will be paper. But like I said, I actually have a number of paper cards. I basically like figured out what cards I wanted to play, and then I got a bunch of singles, except for ones that were expensive, and then I just crafted the cards that cost like $10 or $15, like bought all the like $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 commons and uncommons that I wanted, or some of the rares were cheap too. Cool Stuff Inc. had singles in stock at one point. I'm not sure if they still do. Not sure if they've stocked the last couple of sets. I'm sure there's a few different places online that you can pick their stuff up at. This is a smaller game. Sometimes the queue's a little bit slow. They have a draft mode as well if you're someone who likes limited. So if you want to jump in and just spend a couple of bucks or earn the free in-game currency to play a draft for free, you can play a draft to get accustomed with the cards before you play Constructed. Yeah, they actually announced that they're going to be releasing the game on Nintendo Switch, which is kind of neat. The way the lane system works fits really well on smaller screens, which is nice. Yeah, they rolled out draft mode last month or the month before. Again, want to make sure my wizards end up across from champions that deploy units, because I have spells in my deck that remove units. Yeah, I took a little bit of a break too because everything was super hectic with the move, but now that things have settled down, I've been getting to the gym regularly again, which is the main place where I play. So this is a wizard champion, but it specifically can deploy spirit units, which is interesting. So normally, things that are dedicated wizards can't deploy units, but there are various wizards like this one, which can deploy units of specific types. My opening hand here is very good. I have a Flesh to Stone right away, which gets me drawing cards and completes my spell quest. I have a Beat Back, which even if it doesn't have a unit to move, it still completes my ability quest. And then I have a Pouncing Wolf Rider. So this draws a card. These cards like Beat Back and Tactical Formation seem very powerful, and they're neutral cards that can go in a lot of decks, because you'll note this card says gain an additional action on it, which is really potent because normally you only get 2 actions per turn. So being able to do this and gain an additional action is a big deal because that was basically a free way to complete one of my ability corners. And same thing with Pouncing Wolf Rider with the Savage Boar Boss. Because he turns to a second corner right away and takes a second action, it just does it for free and doesn't take up a resource. You'll notice I can't play this other beatback because, again, you can only play 1 card of each name each turn. But that's actually a really good draw because it means next turn I'm going to be able to run the same gambit on this guy, which is beat back into Wolf Rider and complete two of my quests without spending any cards, basically. And now my opponent's deployed a unit, so normally this unit is very good to deploy on this champion for my opponent because it completes the unit corner and then it turns and completes the health gain corner. But with beatback, I get to disrupt their setup here because I'm going to move this Dorko to this Dorko. So now this guy is stuck here, not completing any quests, and this guy's stuck on this corner and needs something else to heal there to complete that corner. So again, those are the best plays, right? Like, I disrupted my opponent's game plan, but it didn't really take me an action because of the type of card that it was. And I think I'm just going to draw 2. So again, if you have extra actions left over at the end of your turn, you get to draw cards with them. We are currently outvaluing the opponent a significant amount, which is my favorite way to do it. Want to take me to Value Town. So this guy is on an X corner, so he doesn't currently give me an extra action. I'm going to go ahead and deploy this guy here to complete this beast corner. So looking for an ability to finish this guy off, basically. And then I think I could deploy this Flesh to Stone over here, but I think I want to wait on that because this wizard is going to be open next turn, and I'd like to complete this spell quest with this Flesh to Stone. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and take a hit here. Gaze of Mork is sweet. Hopefully my opponent deploys a unit here or here. This guy hit his 3rd corner, so my opponent's kind of just been setting up so far. That's annoying. So that's the Flesh to Stone that we talked about, which denies me extra actions from my thing. However, I'm actually not sure how this works, so let's find out. If I Deadly Chop here, it completes my ability quest, removes this. So if I remove this, does this then give me an action or no? Let's find out. Like, if I remove the thing saying I can't take extra actions, is this static or does it have to be there at the start of my turn? Looks like it does not give me extra. I guess that makes sense. So, like, this does the gain an action at the start of my turn. At the start of my turn, I have the you can't gain actions text in play. Well, that was good to know. The more you know, knowledge is power. I think I'm going to drop Flesh to Stone over here and just keep the flow of cards going. Again, just like, this deck's really good because it churns through the deck, completes all the quests really quickly. This is actually a great draw here because next turn I'm going to get to deploy a beast unit onto this guy. And then I'm going to get to use this tactical formation to complete the last quest. They removed my Flesh to Stone, but I wanted to draw those cards, opponent. Yeah, it makes sense the way it works. It's not just like a static ability that says gain an extra action at the start of your turn. This thing happens. So I have one more Grot Wolf Rider in my deck. So I think I actually want to put this here to get the Wolf Rider rather than deploy this Ogre there. So I can drag this from my deck to here, which then gives me an extra action. And then as we continue kind of outvaluing my opponent here, this card says when this rotates, it rotates my thing as well. So if I tactical formation this guy over to the 3rd lane here, or the 1st lane, this Wolf Rider is going to be across from this, which means it'll rotate to its X corner on my opponent's turn, and then on my next turn, it's going to rotate back to the one where it gives me an extra action. So I'm kind of leveraging the downside on their card to get ahead a little bit. Alright, so this guy's got 2 quests left, an ability and a heal. So next turn, I can feed the Maw plus Wog Infusion there if I want. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and draw. Thanks, Top Toe. Well, I've played this a little bit, right? So this is like the first time I played on stream in a while, but I've played with a lot of these cards. And I'm not... My opponent's deck, I'm not quite sure what they're doing. Maybe their deck's not constructed super well, because they're just kind of spinning their tires over there. Like, they have 9 cards in their hand, and they didn't play anything last turn. So it's like, what are you doing? So this does 3, and then this does 2 and gains me 3. One thing worth noting, and this is relevant, the maximum health total in this game is 35, which I'm actually going to hit now. This gain 4 is going to put me to 35. If you would go to gain health and you hit into the maximum health total, you don't actually gain the health. Alright, well, my hand is full of infinite cards, and this thing discards 2 to just, like, dome them for 5. So I think we're just on the, like, discard dome you for 5 plan 2 turns in a row. And get rid of these 2 Gaze and Works because I have 2 of them. Keep a variety of cards in hand just in case they play something to gain a bunch of life that I'm not thinking about. This is going to gain them 2 next turn. You'll notice that I've completed 3 of... One of the reasons why I'm so far ahead here is I've completed 3 quests on my side of the board, and my opponent hasn't completed any. So they haven't really been doing a whole lot here. Wow, and they again just drew a card. Weird. Alright, so they're actually dead, right? Putting this here deals 3 to them, which puts them to 5, and then the Fire Belly belches here and hits them. I feel like I can get in on the flavor of this game, just like... Health hype achieved. Oh, we get an achievement. Look at that. Achievements are fun. I assume that means winning a game with 35 health, which is what we did. Look at that. I completed my quests and get prizes. So now I have to wait for my missions to roll back in. So, again, just highlights. If you're looking for a game that's sweet on mobile or Steam or paper, you're looking for this a little bit different than Magic. I really like the gameplay in this one. To call a spade, the interface on the Steam version is a little bit crude here because it is kind of just a direct port of the mobile interface, but it's functional and the gameplay is good. That's mostly what I'm looking for. While pretty is nice, I like the gameplay, which is mostly what I'm looking at. I will catch all of y'all. How much does a tier deck cost digital only? I have no idea. So one of the things too is like, this game's really small. So like, there aren't like big Magic tournaments crunching lots of data. So like, I've been winning most of the matches I play with this Fire Belly deck, but it's just a deck full of cards that I like put together out of my collection. Yeah, so that's actually a good, I can show you that. So different heroic abilities happen at different times, or have different settings. So you can only use 1 heroic act per turn, and then some of them are special, like Stink Mullet. He says you can only use this one once per game. So, there are some places that do small tournaments. If you look on their subreddit, there's a Discord server you could join too where people post deck ideas. But I don't know. I would be incredibly surprised if there's optimal decks just based on the volume of people playing. Like, it's a smaller game that's newer. And also, they're about to release a new set on Monday. So, like, there's a good chance that the decks that are already good, some new decks will pop up, or some of the ones that were good before could become bad with the new set. Just to comment on the deck building really quick before I sign off, the deck building in this game has a lot of depth too, which is sweet. So I'm going to move my Twitch chat here for a second. The decks have 38 cards in it. 4 of them are champions. 4 of them are blessings, and then 30 are actions, spells, units, etc. So you pick your 4 champions, and the champions, how you pick them, they have a health total modifier and a cost. So the 4 champions that you pick, the green numbers have to sum total 20 or less. And then the health total numbers modify from 30. And then your blessings are any 4 you can pick, but again, you don't know which champions they end up under game to game, so that's where some of the variance comes in. And then the action cards, you can have up to 3 copies of each action in your deck, except for their unique cards. There are not unique units. There's some unique units for some of the factions, and those you can only have 1 of. But again, it's free on Steam and Android and iOS, so if you're looking for something to poke at, give it a try. I might stream it every once in a while because I'm going to be practicing to find a deck for Gen Con this summer. But I'll be back with more Magic, as I always do tomorrow. Remember, if you're one of my regulars, I start late on Friday, so I'll be starting about 10:30 tomorrow morning, and then I'll be going till about, I don't know, 5 or 6 o'clock like I do. So thanks, everyone, for watching. And if you missed any of this, it'll all be up on my YouTube channel later, just like everything else that I stream. And catch y'all tomorrow. Have a good one. I'm going to find someone to host here really quick.